I think nostalgia is destroying movies. I mean, seriously, we live in a time where sequels, reboots, and franchises dominate all the screens, and it feels like it's so hard to come across something that's actually original anymore.
So this dude was at the movie theaters when he noticed something I think we all have already kind of seen, which is basically everything that's coming out is either a sequel, a prequel, or a remake.
Is nostalgia ruining culture? Is culture stagnating mostly because of our obsession with nostalgia? Now, it's obvious that I'm a pretty nostalgic person based on the stuff that you can probably see in the background. I've even covered some subjects that would be considered kind of nerdy because at the end of the day, it is something that does fill me with, a warm sense, just a sense of joy, a kindred spirit. But I definitely think that maybe it's gotten to the point where it's gone too far culturally. You just look at what's being produced now when it comes to movies and stuff. It's always the safe bet. What's the safe bet? What is a trilogy? What is a sequel we can keep producing? What's an IP that's popular? What are people searching for on Google? Let's keep feeding people the same thing. And because of that, it feels like culture is kind of cannibalizing itself, like pop culture, and we're not getting anything new for newer generations. It's always kids getting inspired by the stuff that their dads like instead of them discovering something that they enjoy, that when they have kids one day they can pass that joy on to their kids as well. At the end of the day, Hollywood, and maybe Hollywood is dying because of this, they're not trying anything, I guess, dangerous anymore. They're not experimenting. They're just giving us the same things that are popular again and again and again. We wouldn't have things like Pokemon or superheroes possibly if culture just stuck to, what we're gonna do? We're gonna do Betty Boop, Felix the Cat, and Popeye. That was like the cartoon kind of cultural relevant cartoons back in like the 20s, 30s, and 40s. If that's all we ever had, and that just got passed on to their kids, and there was nothing else that was new, nothing that was inspirational to the younger generations, we wouldn't have anything right now, right? So that's why it's super important to delve into subjects like this in today's video. We have some clips to react to, and I want your opinions about it as well down below in the comment section. Let's dive into it.
So this dude was at the movie theaters when he noticed something I think we all have already kind of seen, which is basically everything that's coming out is either a sequel, a prequel, or a remake. There's only one person that's making really original content. I mean, if you even think about it, the new Mummy movie, Lee Cronin's movie, The Mummy, even though it's not a remake technically, it is really a remake of Evil Dead Rise, and they're using the name The Mummy as a name that you already know to sell you this movie about the mummy. But realistically, besides what happens to the girl in the movie, nothing about it is really that mummy-ish. She doesn't do anything mummy-esque except for a little bit of a sandstorm towards the end. And really, it's only Steven Spielberg that's bringing us new original content. With his new movie Disclosure, that's a new concept. And it's just sad to see that we are not willing to accept anything new or great because it's new. I mean, if you really think about it, we're getting another Avengers, we're getting another Spider-Man, like the list goes on for like repeats and remakes, sequels and do-overs. Kind of bums me out, but what do you guys think?
It's really sad because as someone who grew up reading comics, I was a massive superhero fan, a comic book fan growing up, and even I get almost a vomit response when I see a new poster for either a superhero film or something else that they're just trying to continue moving forward instead of letting something die. When you let something die, it doesn't have to die forever, but just lay off. What if they just laid off superhero movies for a solid 10 years? You know how excited people would be when they brought it back, they finally have another superhero movie, they're restarting something, a new franchise, a superhero that's maybe more current, that isn't something from an old IP. I don't know. I feel like it would be something that would shake things up, and honestly, I would be welcoming that as someone who even grew up loving comic books. I just can't stand it anymore because they're all getting worse anyways.
I think nostalgia is destroying movies. I mean, seriously, we live in a time where sequels, reboots, and franchises dominate all the screens, and it feels like it's so hard to come across something that's actually original anymore. Now, of course, there are obvious reasons for that we talk about all the time. Studios are owned by corporations that are beholden to their shareholders, and they want to take safe bets with these big budget IP IP-driven sequels and franchises, whatever, in order to turn a quick buck. This is, of course, not new. It's pretty much how Hollywood has run since the 80s, and it's just gotten a lot worse. But I think there's another kind of nostalgia that's just as toxic, and it's not the movies themselves, it's audiences. This is kind of a meta commentary on this whole issue, but it's people like myself and a lot of audiences that are constantly complaining that movies don't feel like they used to. And that's true, because they don't. Every single decade, the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, they all feel a very specific way because they're all beholden to trends and the rhythm that was popular at that time. And when you look at movies now compared to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, of course, they always feel very different. And they should, because they're products of their moment. But if we keep yearning for movies to feel like they used to, then we end up in that nostalgia trap. We end up in a loop. I get these comments all the time of people being like, oh, movies just don't feel like E.T. used to, or like the old Star Wars movies used to. And that's how we end up with legacy sequels. So if we keep complaining that movies don't feel like those movies, then Hollywood will try to revive those movies in order to get butts in theaters. And it actually works. But that's how we end up in that sort of loop, right? We are constantly yearning for what used to be, and then Hollywood sells that back to people. And I think that's really bad for movie culture, because then we end up in this constant state of hating today and wanting what happened yesterday. It's a trap that I constantly fall into. I find myself always rewatching some of my favorite movies, or watching movies from the 70s, 60s, or whatever that I just have not seen yet. I feel like I'm always playing a constant game of catch up. And by doing that, I'm forgetting to actually go out to the theater and watch the movies that are coming out now. I feel like when I lean to be too cynical with my criticism, that I forget that there are great filmmakers working today. And there are plenty out there, you just have to seek them out. That's sort of the nostalgia problem. They don't get that many screens because it's the big franchise films that do get all of the screens. There are great movies coming out every year, and there is a small crop of those small movies that get big, thankfully, when people go out and see them, but not a lot of people are going out to see them. If we don't give new movies the time that we gave all of the classics growing up, then we'll never have new classics. This video is kind of a reminder to myself to constantly engage with today's movies. You know, make sure I'm constantly engaging with modern movie culture. Because if we keep falling for that same nostalgia trap, then we're never going to get out of this nostalgia era that seems to be dominating our culture. Eventually, our culture is just going to eat itself over and over and over again, and we're not going to have anything. We're going to run out of everything. I had to end on a cynical note, but seriously, go out and watch some new good movies. There's so many good movies out there.
With that being said, I wanted to leave this on more of a positive note. Yes, there's still good movies being made today. I really enjoyed Weapons last year. This year, unfortunately, Disclosure Day sucked, but there's other great movies like Backrooms and also Obsession, so there is still good movies being out there, but I feel like you really got to go out searching for them, because movie theaters are obviously going to prop up the bigger IP from the studio that's really trying to push nostalgia on its audience, instead of trying to give the audience something new, which I think is very important for culture to not just stagnate over time. Leave your thoughts about this video down below in the comment section, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.